Now at Banana Republic Factory, save big with 50 to 70% off the entire store. Plus, take an extra 50% off clearance. Stock up on dresses and polos starting at $19.99. Find your nearest store or shop online only at Banana Republic Factory.
Welcome to Audio Gyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have Dadi Pudumjee with us on Audio Gyan. Dadi is a leading puppeteer in India and he is the founder of the Ishara Puppet Theatre Trust. He was awarded the Sangeet Natak Akademi Award in 1992. An alumni of NID Ahmedabad, Dadi has been relentlessly working in the field of puppet theatre for more than 3 decades. Though he formed the Ishara Puppet Theatre Trust 30 years ago, his association with puppet theatre dates back to 1967. The Padma Shri awardee, who's credited with giving modern twist to puppetry with incorporating life-size puppets, music in his shows, feels that puppetry is no more bound to children and is the thing to institutionalize the craft. So thank you, Dadi sir, for giving us your time, and it's a real honor to have you on Audio Gyan. So I've come up with 2 broad topics, and if I can probably produce 2 episodes from this conversation. Let's see. So the first thing is obviously about knowing puppetry as an art form, and to this I have few questions. So can you start us by telling us like a brief history of puppetry in India or Asia for that matter?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not a historian, so I cannot
but just
tell
broad
you.
Because of your...
It's very difficult to pinpoint because every country is very chauvinistic. India will say we are the oldest ones, 2500. China says that, somebody else says that, but the German Pischel, I forget his name, he mentions that possibly India is the birthplace of puppetry. But there is no proof on this, because when you look at civilizations and when you see what is available, or if there is some document, because everything is ephemeral in puppetry, there are many ancient civilizations that have had moving figures. So I cannot say that exactly this is the history of puppetry, and it's too wide for the whole world. Yeah. I have to correct you, SNA award was 93.
Oh, 93. Yeah. Sorry. Cool. So historically, at least for me as a layman, because I am a designer by profession, but I am very new to this art form. So, but from my perception, it has always been for children, right? So can you tell us why was that?
It is, traditionally in India also it was never for children. Okay. The traditional puppet performances or groups which are in 7 or 8 different states in India existing have either folklore or gathas, otherwise it is epics or it is the Ramayana and Mahabharata, and they were all community viewing, children and adults originally. The whole idea of it being only for children, which it is good for children, but that it is more for children came in the erstwhile sort of East Bloc countries where they had very big children's puppet theatres. And so in the 50s, after the war, 40s, 50s, puppetry is good for children, this, that and the other, and that has filtered down. But today all over the world there is children's theatre, puppet theatre, as well as there is puppet theatre family, or even just puppet theatre for adults. So, but generally this thing about people that is good, small figures, puppets, sweet characters are for children, is no longer the same, because the different artists, designers work in their own way. Our Ishara Puppet Theatre also performances are mostly for family, children and adults. So it depends on what the production, how it's made and who it's focused for. If you make something specifically for children, yes, it is for children's audience, or you would say suitable from this age onwards or something like that. But it's not just for children anymore.
Okay. Cool. In one of your interviews online, as in articles online, I read that puppetry is gradually becoming a potent tool to address social issues. It's not for kids or entertainment. So can you elaborate on that? Like, what are the instances Ishara have done or other places where this form has been utilized or has helped to communicate social issues?
Puppetry has always had a comment in it. Even in traditional puppetry, in the epics or whatever, there's always been some way where some 2 or 3 characters, Kilikiata, the clown, or the barber, or whatever, has connected the epics to present day.
Okay.
In some way or the other. So there's always been some subtle thing. Many of the theatres, puppet theatres in India now have 2 maybe streams. One is educational work and one is performance or just artistic work. And a lot of the social issues come in this educational work, whether it's teaching through puppetry or it is working awareness programs. I can speak about our Ishara Puppet Theatre Trust because we had a very strong period, at least a 4-year period, mid sort of 2004, 5, 6, where we were dealing with, it was a UNESCO and EU grant to work with a marginalized group, and it was Salam Balak Trust children, 7 or 8 who were just graduating or coming out of that shelter, 18-year-old, who today are our puppeteers in India, many of them, the new puppeteers. And we had worked, the project was on HIV awareness for 2 years, and then the next 2 years was on substance addiction, abuse. So the idea or the challenge was how to make the medium and the message meet, because it's a very serious subject. 15-20 minute street shows, you want people to see them, stand and see, how do you put the message across? And so for us, puppetry has never been ends in itself. Puppets are be all and all. So we mix actors, puppets, masks, objects to tell the story. And that is how many of our 3 or 4 productions on HIV awareness, discrimination, substance abuse, things like that were done.
No, but in the sense, there are different ways in which these causes or these thoughts are reaching to audience, right? Like there's theater, there's cinema, there's plays happening, there's TV serials. So why, or is there any particular advantage which puppet has as an art form?
Sometimes it does. I can say in the social or cultural context, certain things are very sensitive, especially in talking about HIV, about same sex, about safe sex, about this, about that, and that if a actor does it, it is very subjective because the audience is flesh and blood, the actor is also flesh and blood. The puppet is like for us an objective theatre of form, so it's a little like it is real but it's not. And so you don't, the sensitivity of that or queasiness sometimes goes away in our cultural context, you can say, or in Southeast Asia, in these countries. So that's why you can say certain things through puppetry which may not be necessarily be possible through a human actor. But when you mix human actors and puppetry and all, then you have an advantage of doing many other things as well. So
the messenger becomes opaque, sort of.
It becomes opaque, but it has become stronger in some ways, I would say also. In the sense that it's difficult to explain until you have a demonstration and you show the person, because they're a live actor and they're a puppet. And if they're doing the same thing, where does your focus of the audience go to? Will it go to the puppet or will it go to the live actor? Very often it will go to the puppet because it is an inanimate thing which is given life, which is moving. You know it is not real. You know that somebody else is moving it, yet there is some intrigue to watch that if it's done well, if the puppet is moved well. And this is the power of the puppet, that if if it's done well, it sometimes draws the audience to watching it. And then you can say certain things, like you have a cartoon or a political cartoon or caricature. You know, the same thing, if it's done with live actors, will be very different from the two-dimensional thing. So there is that difference. That is how it is.
Wow, that's fascinating. So what all different types of puppets have been explored? Like string-based, hand-based? Can you give some brief idea for a layman?
There are basically all over the world 3 or 4 techniques. One is string puppets, which are worked from above, glove puppets worn on the hand, rod puppets, which are worked from below or from behind, and then there's shadow puppets, which are placed on a screen and there's a light and the audience watches it on the other side. The light passes through, it's color or it's opaque material. Besides that, there are many other mix and matches. I mean, Muppets, for instance, the Muppet Show or Sesame Street, the ones the world's famous learning program, preschool, those uses hand and mouth puppets. That's why it became Muppets. What you see sometimes in present day television shows in India, NDTV, Gustaki Maaf, the political set, those are really Muppets, but they are not for children. They're made from latex. They're made from a sort of puff foam thing, and your hand is inside the mouth, and there's somebody else with their hands and arms in the puppet's arms. These are the techniques specially made for television because it's speaking, and things like that. So puppets are made for TV. Puppets are made specifically separately for the stage. It depends. Open air parades will be different. Materials would be different. So that's how.
Wow. Obviously, given the short time you have, in the first section, which I wanted to ask about, knowing the background just to warm up, traditionally, how long does a puppetry show last? Is there any time frame, good, like a perfect time? I'm really sorry if these are slightly basic questions, but yeah, which type of people are involved in a performance, right? Because what I have seen, there's an actor, writer, director. Are there any more people? What is the show like? It's just a broad
Well, when you
premise.
say traditionally, how long? In the traditional performances, the epics used to last the whole night, and sometimes 9 and 10 days a night performances. Today, audiences have weaned in even in their areas in the interior, and edited shows are smaller, or ritually they have to do the full performance, but there are very few who are watching it. So it depends on that. Most modern puppeteers today are using between 45 minutes to an hour length of a show. I'm sure if there's a very good, strong show, it could go longer. But most of our performances at Ishara also last about 45, 50 minutes, maximum 60. And a lot of things are involved because plastic arts, for instance, actor uses his own body and his own voice, but puppets, you have to make the puppets, design, stitching, color. After you made it, then the manipulation, movement, then voice may be different, or voice of the puppeteer itself. So it's different, like the performance which is happening right now, tomorrow here, when land becomes water, it is actors, puppets, dance, and there's a live orchestra involved. That's how it's happening. So come and see the rehearsal tomorrow, at 11 noon, as they said. If you're free, come and see it. It's a very different experience. Yeah. So many people are involved. And then today, lights, sound, all that comes into the thing. Technical stuff comes in. Well, it could be simple with one light or one puppet, and it can be open air, or it depends on how you want to use it. What is the performance? Not all performances are same.
But are there production houses who are like putting in money for better sets, better production costs?
Not as yet. Not that we see that. Very rare. Some films have used puppets, or some things. NCPA has produced these in the 50th anniversary. This story that we're doing on the flood, the 3 stories. One, Noah's Ark, which everyone knows, is a Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia, mythology, and Manu from India. The 3 similar stories from different parts of the world on the flood. Flood comes, destroys everyone. So there's a certain ones who are put into a boat, and they survive and they regenerate. So how do we put these 3 stories together, similar? So that's what we've taken visually from different stories, linked them with a narrator, she is also a dancer, so there's movement involved. And the most exciting thing is there's an 18-piece symphony orchestra playing music specially composed for it.
Wow.
With lights, with some animation, and it comes from Neeta Premchand's books, a storyteller and a bag of myths. She works with handmade paper, so she did all her illustrations in the book with crushed paper. That's where it started from, and then it's gone on to much more. And it started from children's books. It's no longer a children's performance today. Yeah. So it depends on each director, how they want to use things, how they want to present. It depends on that. Yeah.
I wish I could have made this episode live today itself so that people can listen and come tomorrow. But yeah, so the second part which I wanted to ask you is more about the artistic nuances about puppetry. So if you can tell me who's a puppeteer actually, like, because you said there are too many people involved, right? So who's that? Is that a director? Is that the story writer? Is it the actual person who moves things around, and what does he do?
There are 2 things here as well. One is the traditional puppet theatre, which is generational or family oriented. So the person grows up in that family doing or seeing that right from childhood, and so they are trained in that technique and that storytelling. Today, even that is changing because the younger people of those families are wanting to do newer things and use newer material. The modern puppeteers, which are more urban based, are not limited by a certain style or a story, so their themes are different, and their issues or their look or the way they use puppets will come from their experience, mostly design, theatre over people, things. I would say for me, my thing comes more puppetry as a hobby than the National Institute of Design. So there's a lot of design input in my productions, color, form, material, things like that, and then a visual appeal to it. So it depends on, we don't have schools of puppetry training schools, otherwise you have 3 and 4 year programs in universities where there is puppetry in some countries. UNEMA India, which is the World Puppets Body's national chapter in India, started a foundation course. They did a 3-month course recently in Delhi when there were about 12 people from different parts of India who came and stayed full time and had a course where they were introduced to dramaturgy, direction, plastic arts, drawing, sculpting, things like that, and then making a production. Right now there's one of the, and afterwards they have to do a 6 months internship. It's a first trial, and one of them is part of this performance we are doing tomorrow as well. So we're trying to see how it is possible, or is it needed to have a full-time puppet school in India or training, and is there other people to take it on? Maybe soon the local Amandal, one of the oldest puppet steady institutions, which was in Udaipur by Devilal Samar, had sort of gone into a certain way, and now it's being totally regenerated, a new building, a museum, and hopefully we might have a fixed course there, workshop courses or introduction. We have to see how it will happen. So that is there. There is a lot of interest by younger traditional puppeteers who want to use new material, new stories, and sometimes they find themselves limited because they are, I wouldn't say stuck, but they are grown up in a certain style or form. To break away from that and to create something new which they think is modern, it needs also study, it needs a language, how to do a modern thing as well. So what is modern for them might not be modern for you or me when it comes to a city. So there are many layers here, and let's see how it works. It's one thing will lead to another, hopefully.
Sure. So at Pune Design Festival, I saw a small performance of yours, and in which you brought, I think, shoes. So what all can be used for puppetry? Anything for that matter, or?
See, it depends. Figurative puppetry is, of course, these puppetry which people know, but object theatre or animation. Object animation, and this is using different objects and moving them or manipulating them to give life, becomes a puppet, animate sort of thing. And these were exercises and those were demonstrations that what is the essence of puppetry. It's not just what you see at the end, the beautiful big puppets designed, or human being or animals or traditional forms. You can even take simple objects, move them, and for those few minutes you can communicate through them without much decoration or embellishment also. So then you leave a lot to the audience as well who's watching. You don't spoon feed them, but if it's worked well, then that movement or that object will connect with the experience of the observer, of the audience. So the story is told, as I say, that we take few steps towards the audience, they take few steps towards the performance, and that is when it comes alive. It's not one way.
Very, very interesting. So on the same lines, I want to ask you, is there so I'm sure like every artist, even from music to like painting, anything for that matter, tries to bring in realism in their work to see as much as you can make it feel very real. So any particular ingredient or ingredients to make puppet look very real?
Oh yeah, there are very new sort of, how you say, realism theatre, puppet theatres in the world, which are so real that it's very unnerving when you see these figures moving, and you feel strange because it's almost real. The quality of making the puppet or the movement. So, but yet there is a certain macabre feel to it which attracts you. So I am not in that in that thing that for me it's more stylized. My work is more stylized and how do you say, suggestive. This form which has come in Europe, I'm seeing with latex, with finishes of the puppet which are so real that I do not know. I have not been able to decipher what is the reason for that or why, but it still attracts and it does fabulous performances, because why not have the real actor doing it? But yet it's still not real. It's unreal, the object, and that is what is still making it something interesting.
So appearance is one, movement is one. Anything else?
Movement is the most important in puppetry, and how you move
I'm
it.
saying like in making
Sound,
it more real.
voice, character, color, all these things come into the form. So I would say for any performing art, that would be important. There is a language of puppetry, of how you use puppetry, the techniques, things like that. It's not just making a figure and moving or shaking it. Yeah.
So as you mentioned that your style is slightly suggestive. So at least from my experience, like puppet look in general has got a distinct style of the artist, or I don't know, you can elaborate more on that, but is there any particular thought, reason behind going down a particular style, or it could be experimental as well continuously?
No, there is a thought, because if you see traditional puppet theatre, the style comes from the region. If it's from Andhra Pradesh, shadow puppets, or it's a string puppet from Rajasthan, it's very particular how it is. Today, maybe it is getting a little mixed because of monoculture and television. So the concept for a traditional artist of beauty or what looks nice comes from the film. So it becomes one. Otherwise, there's a very distinct style, very distinct use of color. The same will happen with modern puppets, and that is where the design maybe element comes in. Each artist there will be a certain look of that puppet or something that is connected to that designer or the director. In many countries, the puppet maker is different, the puppeteers are different, this is that. Here in India, we're doing it all ourselves. So even though in traditional puppet makers sometimes are different from the puppeteers, but slowly that is going. So your puppets which you design, or the way that doesn't mean that 10 performances I do all the puppets look similar, but there is a difference on the design, the look of the puppet, or what the story demands, how you would design that, why use shadow puppets for this story, or why use rod puppets for this. That also depends, because each puppet technique can do certain things which maybe are beneficial to that storytelling form, or to what you're trying to say. If it's humor or farce, or if it's serious, or if it's melodrama, it will be different types of puppets you would use. So different techniques also would be used.
I think this is like a never-ending chat, and we can just, because this is frankly very new to me, very fascinating, and I wish through this program, like a lot of people get at least aware. I can't say like how many, but yeah, to a certain extent, whatever.
If you know that yesterday was World Puppet Day.
Wow.
Yeah, 21st of March, UNEMA as of now still am the president of the World Puppet Body, and in 2003 it started. The first World Puppet Day was on Equinox Day, 21st of March, and so all over the world it's celebrated a Puppet Day. People do different things. UNEMA now, the World Puppet Body, if you go to their site unema.org, you will see the things that each year a personality is asked to write a message. This year they asked me to write as UNEMA president, because UNEMA is celebrating its 90th anniversary, the World Puppet section today, and they're also got almost 90 national chapters. So there's going to be a whole year of things, of exhibitions, of archival material from different countries. But also this week becomes World Performing Week now, with one logo, because I think 20th is Asitage, which is the Children's Theatre Day. 21st is World Puppet Day. ITI, International Theatre Institute, has something in the next few days. So then sort of they said just 1 week which has different performing arts week, they've called it. They try to make that. And slowly World Puppet Day is growing everywhere. Little pockets, people are making things, celebrating, they're trying to propagate or make it popular in their own places. Things like that are happening, yeah.
Cool. So, Dadi sir, I would like to just conclude with one last question, which is a slightly cliche, but let's like, yeah, what's the future of puppetry, like with respect to stories, techniques, factor, or anything for that matter? Like,
I think you have to make your own future. This is very difficult. Very often, you didn't ask me, is it a dying art? Because most people say, which is, it is in some ways true in the sense it's not, I wouldn't say dying, but the audiences are waning. As the traditional puppeteer Puran Bhatt says, puppetry isn't dead, the audiences are dying. So, why is that happening? Because there is lots of other media where you have to make your puppets more interesting, or production quality, or work the puppet so well that you hold your audience. And I think there are people, younger people interested right now, and there is a slight renaissance, a regeneration. I wouldn't say in big terms, but there is a lot of interest that is happening. Ishara runs the annual International Puppet Festival. It's gone for 17 years now. We just finished our 17th one in February.
in Delhi, right?
Delhi.
Yeah.
We can't go further out very much. It used to come to Mumbai because earlier NCPA used to collaborate. Some shows every year go to Chandigarh. Chandigarh administration takes us parallel 4 or 5 day festival. But we still need collaborators all over in India where they can take groups. Otherwise, it's very difficult. And already for 2020, groups from abroad are applying. And there's some of them coming on their own to India to perform. Some of them get help with their cultural centers, ministries, but many of them want to come and perform in this festival. It has grown, and in that has created some platform in the sense that there has been some sort of interest of different styles of puppetry have come into this festival. Good, bad, there is production qualities, there is artistic things, and so people's awareness is growing. But again, as you say, it's in Delhi. Limited, it's not much. And I wish it could go better because already groups come all the way to India. And this year we had a very good festival. I would say most of the groups each of them had very, very special techniques and storytelling ways, which are doing,
Yeah, I went through like a lot of articles of you online, and obviously everyone has asked this: why is it not dying? Why is it dying, or is it dying even? But from what I understood is at least cinema is 125 years old, and we can say it's just in its infancy. But puppetry dates back for like thousands of years, yeah, and so it's a classical art form which I think will
There's
never.
no doubt about it. Yeah. India is maybe the only country also. Whatever we say, the Academy, Sangeet Natak Akademi, puppetry is accepted, and the president gives an award each year to a puppeteer, traditional or modern. And they've got the Yuva Award, Bismillah Khan Award, which goes to a younger puppeteer under the age of 30 and above. So that is interesting because there are many, I'm sure there are awards all in countries, but every year, in the whole gamut of artists, dance, music, theatre, folk arts, there is a puppeteer who gets an award given by the President of India. Yeah. So this is special for the puppeteer when that happens.
Yeah, sure. In fact, when I met Ashish Deshpande, who had organized the PDF, he said, you are the first designer in India to won a Padma Shri, right? Because
not
like,
true.
No, designer, as in like coming from a NID kind of a school, and like design Padma Shri. I don't know how does it.
Maybe I don't know. That happened. I don't know. I didn't even believe it also myself, and I got a call that up accept kar rahe ho ya nahi. This is what is they call you a night before it's released. So I don't know. It happened. Yeah, it is in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. As of now, I think there's just 2 puppeteers. One is Suresh Datta from Calcutta, who's pretty old now. Myself, I don't know if there are any other puppeteers who have still got the Padma Shri. I'm not sure. I wish there would be, because for those few days you get all happy, but afterwards, I don't know if it means anything. But if it goes to traditional puppeteers, it means a lot, because to give them that platform, even the SNA award, when the president gives the award, it is special for the artists that their work is being recognized, and the artists traditional puppeteers need more platforms for performance, because otherwise where do they go
I think
to
that will
perform?
be the biggest
If that
gratification.
is the thing, if that happens, they know that they have to keep creating and make their work better for the audience. Here they're waiting for a show, this will come, that will come, and the audience even in the village is very discerning now. If it's not a nice show, they don't want to see it. They'll see it for some time and move away. So times have changed, and just because something is traditional doesn't mean it's still of a certain quality. There are very good traditional artists in any form, and then there are some who are just surviving, and they all have to look inwards to see how they can make the quality of their work without maybe changing it. Change is definite. There is nothing constant, which is true, which is through the years. Change is happening very fast today, but if that change can be qualitative in production, making of puppet, manipulation, the audience is there to see a traditional show as well. We can't say that they don't want to see it. That's what I have found, yeah.
Wonderful. I think this is not a good note to end, because I want to learn more and know more things, but given the time you have given for this, it's great.
Yeah, I'm okay with no problem. Yeah.
Cool. So thank you, sir, for giving us your time, and it was lovely talking to you.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Saavn, Stitcher, or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.